Welcome to the Reindl Report, a podcast out of San Diego, California that rewrites the definition of mediocrity.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
So come along for the ride as Paul Reindl takes you through the world of sports with insight, interviews, and incredibly bad jokes.
It just seems like the people that are so butthurt about it.
Did you throw a butthurt out there?
Yeah, I said butthurt.
2005 calls. They want their turn back.
Yeah, walked right into that one.
Now, here's your host, Paul Reindl.
Episode 35 of the Reindl Report. Welcome to it. My name is Paul Reindl, your host of the Reindl Report. Be with you here for the next few minutes. This podcast coming out in that kind of a haze of a time, right? The week between Christmas and New Year's. People, you don't really know what day it is. You just know that you just got done seeing family, stuff in your face, and that you got the new year coming up in a few days, and that's really all you know. Most people take this week off of work. Well, happy holidays to you. Whatever you celebrate, however you celebrate it. Happy holidays. 2017, right around the corner, and hey, thank God, am I right? Man, 2016, just brutal of a year. This podcast is a San Diego-based podcast, and we focused primarily on the San Diego sports scene as well as what's going on across the land nationally. But normally this is where I would come out and talk about the Chargers and how I can't believe they lost to the Browns, the 0-14, the now 1-15 Cleveland Browns. But I can totally believe that the Chargers lost to the Browns. I mean, look, the Chargers by all means were the better team. They're the more talented team. They've got the better football players between the two teams. But there was really no doubt in my mind that they were going to lose that game to the Browns. And I think a lot of Chargers fans, if they're real with themselves, probably feel the same way. I don't know if it was a hangover from that awful game that we had here in San Diego with the Raiders and the 90%, black hole at Qualcomm and Dino saying the comments that he said about how he's leaning towards Los Angeles and just the whole threat of relocation kind of looming over the team and the fans just kind of saying, you know what, we don't even care anymore. We're over it. Just make up your damn mind. We could care less at any point. I don't argue that sentiment at all. I do not feel ill-willed towards any Chargers fans that feels that way, because this is how many times are we going to have to go through this? Chargers are hosting the Chiefs for the second year in a row now, what, quote, could be the last game at Qualcomm Stadium. I remember that Dolphins game last year, and I'm sure you do too, Chargers fans. You thought it really could be the last game. I mean, we remember Eric Weddle just laying on the 50-yard line. Rivers staying well longer than he normally does, signing autographs, all the players. They were soaking it in, because if that was the last hurrah, they wanted to remember that moment. And for the fans, not having absolutely no idea what was going to happen at the NFL meetings just a couple of weeks after that game. Having no idea if the Rams were going to go to L.A., if the Chargers were going to go to L.A., if the Raiders were going to go to L.A., if everybody's going to stay in their market. We had no idea. And now we've got to go through that again? I don't know. It just doesn't feel the same heading into that last home game like it did last year. I was thinking about, do I want to get tickets to that? I mean, it really could be the last Chargers game. And tickets are pretty affordable, because I don't think people... I mean, at some point, you just have to say enough is enough. I can't keep putting myself through that routine, through the emotional roller coaster of not knowing, is this the last game? Is it not the last game? Do we even want the Chargers to win the game? I mean, at this point, I guess they could play spoil to Kansas City in some sense, but, I mean, now we're just looking at draft picks, right? I mean, assuming it's going to be the San Diego Chargers, don't you want them to have the best draft pick? Look, if they're the LA Chargers or whatever the hell they rebrand to, and you don't care anymore, then they might as well win, because then you don't really care if they get a higher draft pick or not. I mean, Mike McCoy's demise has to be set in stone, right? Winning or losing that Kansas City game can't change. I mean, Dean and Telesco, they know what they need to do. They absolutely know he's gone. So I just don't see what's really on the line right now for this Kansas City game. It's a tough loss for the Chargers. I mean, it blows my mind how they can still find ways to lose a game, new ways to lose a game. We've had blocked kicks, we've had botched snaps, we've had interceptions, we've had fumbles. This time, Rivers marches them downfield, gets to the 27-yard line. No timeouts left, late in the fourth quarter, under a minute left, like 30 seconds left. And Rivers, at least when the TV, the good old CBS crew decided to pan to Rivers, he looked like he was the only one sprinting off the field. He looked like he was the only one that had any idea, like, hey guys, it's fourth down. We can't spike the ball. We can't. We have to just get the field goal unit on there and go for it. I mean, it honestly would not have surprised me if Josh Lambo was sitting there on the sideline like, oh crap, trying to find his helmet. Hey, let me borrow your helmet, man. You know what I mean? So they rush them out there. They get the snap off with 1 second left. Kick goes wide right. And Merry Christmas, Cleveland. Cavaliers win a championship. Indians make it to the World Series. And the Browns won a game. They won a game. I don't have a whole lot to say as far as what pertains to this week, whether San Diego scene or around the country. What I'm going to do with this podcast, I do have a couple of notes that I do want to say that are pertinent to right now. But what this podcast is going to be, we're going to recap 2016. Because while 2016 really sucked for the most part, however you want to cut it, celebrity deaths, whatever, 2016 kind of sucked. Everybody knows it. However, in sports, it was a hell of a year. An absolutely historic year. A year that who knows if we'll ever see a year like this again. And so I've got a lot of sound. We're going to replay some of that sound. We're going to relive some of the best moments from 2016, and I'm really looking forward to that. The only other things that I got to say that are pertinent more to right now, to this late December 2016 podcast, Derek Carr going down for Oakland. How about that? Look, I know as a Chargers fan, you're not supposed to like the Raiders. I get it. I personally, I didn't have a whole lot against the Raiders. I thought it was great for them, 14 years of a playoff drought, and they finally get in. And not only that, but they're looking at the number 2 seed in the AFC. Good on them. I'm okay with that. Good on them. Derek Carr, remember watching him at Fresno State. So that guy, he's got something. I think he's going to be a pretty solid quarterback. I didn't think he was going to be a young superstar like he's turning into. But the maturity, the makeup that he has, he's a leader. He's a franchise quarterback. He's a guy that you can get behind and lead your team. And you hate seeing anybody get hurt. But man, isn't that just the Raiders' luck? And I know I'm not going to get any sympathy from Chargers fans that have hated the Raiders their entire lives. I totally get it. I don't think those people are, applauding the fact that Carr got hurt, broken leg, or anything like that, but that is tough. That is tough. I mean, at this point, I would say the Chiefs really are the only team in the AFC that could even put up a fight against New England. I mean, Pittsburgh, maybe. They're going to have to go on the road. I mean, the road to the Super Bowl is going through Foxborough. I think the Chiefs might be the only team that can hang. But it's looking pretty promising that New England's going to be back in the Super Bowl once again. The other thing about this time of year is Christmas, and that means NBA paradise. The best games of the year are set aside for Christmas Day. And what a treat basketball fans got. You didn't even have to be a basketball fan, man. Sports fans in general. What a treat we got between the Cavs and the Warriors on Christmas Day. A little preview of what would almost certainly be round 3 come June here in the NBA Finals. Had a little rematch. We're going to talk about that series. Obviously, believe it or not, hot take, I know, that the Cavs beating the Warriors in the NBA Finals would make it onto the list of top sports stories of 2016. We'll get into that, but just what a game. 109-108, Cleveland beats the Warriors. Game that had big leads, had back and forth, had Richard Jefferson just dunking on anyone in his way. Absolutely outstanding game. And then I just got to make a comment on this because it's absolutely insane to me. Russell Westbrook for the Thunder, they also played on Christmas Day. We are, at the time that this is being recorded, I don't know about the time that you're listening to this, but by the time this is being recorded, the Oklahoma City Thunder have played 31 games. Russell Westbrook is averaging a triple-double over the course of 31 games. That blows my mind. That is unbelievable. I didn't think the Thunder were going to have a chance after KD left and went to Golden State. I really didn't. And I don't think they're going to win the title anytime soon. But man, Westbrook is really making himself a strong argument for most valuable player in the league. He really is. I mean, averaging a triple-double. How long can he keep this up for? Is he really going to go the whole damn season averaging a triple-double? That's just unheard of. He's having a remarkable season. So I wanted to throw that out there because I knew he'd been doing really well. I knew he was leading the league in scoring. I knew that he had a bunch of triple-doubles. But it wasn't until just a few minutes before I started recording this podcast that I realized, holy hell, dude is averaging a triple-double. That is something else. All right. Recap of the 2016 year of sports. Kind of the year that was. Really interesting year. I mean, God, I got to keep it local. I got to keep my San Diego listeners happy. Well, I don't know about happy, but got to keep them involved here, keep them engaged. The first thing I got was mid-January, remember? It was almost a year ago today, just about a year ago. We just talked about it, that last game against the Dolphins, and thinking, we don't know what the future is of our franchise. Are they leaving? Are they staying? Who knows? And they had that Roger Goodell presser announcing the Rams were coming back to Los Angeles. It was a huge moment. San Diego, of course, gets the option to relocate, and if they don't move on that in a year, then the Raiders get it. Look, I'm not going to beat a dead horse here. We have no idea what's going to happen. I think they're gone. A lot of people think they're gone. A lot of people also think that Dean Spanos doesn't even know what he's doing. He has no idea. He hasn't made up his mind yet. All I know is that the season ends on Sunday, and he said we'll address that after the regular season, so we should know pretty soon here of whether or not he's going to take that exercise that option and hit the U-Hauls and head on up to good old Inglewood and be roommates with Kroenke. I don't know. Super Bowl 50 had the Broncos winning the Super Bowl. Peyton Manning, just a weird month that dude had. You remember this? I mean, he goes from having all these PED allegations against him. There was some website or something like that from the other side of the world, right? That leaked Peyton Manning's been ordering and taking all these PEDs. He's like, what are you talking about? Look at me. Do I look like I'm taking PEDs? No. And he just really could barely move, wasn't doing much, gets into the Super Bowl, replaces Osweiler, who helped get him there, and has now been since benched over in Houston for just a guy named Tom Savage. I love that. Tom Savage. Sounds like he should be on the Wonder Years, right? So Peyton Manning, the sheriff, gets in there, beats the Panthers, gets to ride off into the sunset. Let's take a listen.
And if you haven't started already, you can officially start now in the Mile High City and Rocky Mountain region, because the Denver Broncos are world champions. They have just won Super Bowl 50.
Final call there from Broncos radio network. I said I had to engage my San Diego audience, and here I am, 15 minutes in, and I've lost them. I've pissed them off. I get it. I'm sorry. Hey, moving on. March Madness, one of my absolute favorite times of the year. Filling out those brackets, printing off about 10 different brackets, 4 or 5 of them, of course, having, San Diego State go all the way, and then saving the rest to actually, okay, let's see what might actually happen. Villanova, good God, what a game. What an absolutely amazing game. Quite frankly, the best championship basketball game I think I've ever seen, at least in the college scene. I got one. It's even on this list. It might rival that. It might have the title of best basketball game I've ever seen. But as far as a college championship game, I mean, half-court buzzer beater to win it. I mean, that was the best title game in college basketball. Let's take a listen to the final call. Chris Jenkins for Villanova. Time winding down. Oh, my gosh.
3 seconds to go across the timeline. 2 seconds to go. Jenkins, 3, right wing to win it. He made it. He made the 3 from the right wing at the buzzer. Cats win it all. Cats win it all. Cats win it all.
Cats win it all, baby. That was unbelievable. I mean, there's just very few moments where I will literally jump out of my seat or just act like an absolute idiot in the room while watching sports. Trust me, outside of watching a sporting event, I make myself look like an idiot plenty. But as far as being in a room with people or even by myself and maybe scaring my dog, it's pretty rare, but it happened on that night in April. Villanova with just, again, the best title game I've ever seen. How often do you get that? Not just a last-second layup. I mean, it had all the dramatics. A last-second half-court buzzer beater. Oh, what a game. Keeping it on the hardwood, though, we moved just really about 2 weeks later. Not even 2 weeks, I don't think. Kobe Bryant in his final game as a Laker. Final game before he retires from the NBA. And look, I've said it for a long time. I wasn't a Kobe Bryant fan, but damn it, I was on this night against the Jazz. Kobe Bryant goes off for 60 points.
We are here to celebrate greatness for 20 years. Excellence for 20 years.
The other forward for
Magic
the final
Johnson
time,
with the introduction there before the game.
On the floor, Kobe Bryant.
Bryant gets to the basket and has 47 points. See if he gets 50 here. Bryant going to the basket. Kobe Bryant! There it is! A 50-point game in his farewell. And the Lakers close out Kobe Bryant's career with a win and one of the great farewell performances in any sport.
Yeah, you can say that again. You can say that again. 60 points in his farewell game. And not only that, but he grabbed the microphone and before he dropped it, literally dropped the mic, gave a nice little speech to the crowd.
All I can do here is just thank you guys. Thank you guys for all the years of support. Thank you guys for all the motivation. Thank you for all the inspiration. You guys will always be in my heart. And I sincerely appreciate it. No words can describe how I feel about you guys. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. God, I love you guys. And I love you guys. And Mamba out.
Mamba out. How about that? Look, I just said it again. I wasn't a big fan of Kobe Bryant as the player, but hey, gotta give credit where credit's due. Gotta recognize it. I was beside myself watching that game. Thought no way he was gonna do. He hadn't done anything in a couple of years, not just that season, but in a couple of years, Kobe Bryant was an afterthought. At least with his play on the court. I know he was still Kobe Bryant of the Lakers. I thought the most fitting way for that to wrap up that whole night was Shaq saying, I dared him to score 50 and the motherfucker scored 60. I mean, it was just, that was unbelievable. What a farewell game for him. Just a day for the ages for Lakers fans. Absolutely. Moving along to May, something that I don't ever talk about. I certainly didn't talk about it on the podcast because it's soccer, and I just am uneducated on soccer. I choose to be. That is not anyone's fault but my own, and I get it. Hey, world's most popular sport. There's a hotbed of soccer fans in San Diego. I'm just not one of them. But look, I don't even know how to say their name. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. Leicester City, right? I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. I'm sitting here looking at some of my show notes, and I'm just thinking, I don't know how to say their name. But, hey, serious note, though. Leicester City winning the Premier League, and I don't even know. I remember listening to a lot of different sports shows, a lot of, watching on TV or on the radio or listening to podcasts around that time. And people that are fanatics of the sport, they didn't even know how to describe how much of a long shot Leicester City was to win that game and just to win the championship. But all I can tell you is there were 5,000 to 1. 5,000 to 1 odds. I mean, I don't know. I can't even think of anything off the top of my head that might even be close to a comparison there. Let's listen into Leicester City winning the Premier League over in May.
Tottenham's title hopes perish at Stamford Bridge. Leicester City have fulfilled the most fantastical football fable in the history of English football.
Again, I said I don't talk about it that often, but hey, you beat 5,000 to 1 odds, you get on the Rindle Report, especially for a year-end recap. That's pretty awesome. The next month finds us in June, and this is, look, it's a toss-up between the best story. I mean, if you were to do a Google search of the top sports stories of 2016, kind of similar to what I'm doing here, got to imagine number 1 and 2 are going to be the Cavs and the Cubs, both winning the titles, both ending those long droughts in Chicago and Cleveland. So let's relive that Cleveland series. Warriors up 3-1 in the series. The best regular season team ever, 73-9. And what do we get? We somehow get a Game 7. And not just at any Game 7, the best basketball game that I have ever seen. That fourth quarter was unbelievable. I would be lying to you if I said that I haven't, even recently at least, gone on YouTube and you can watch the whole fourth quarter, or really what you need to watch is like the last 5 minutes, because the score was 89-89 for what seemed like the entire fourth quarter. You could see that this was two teams. They weren't playing sloppy basketball. They were playing exhausted basketball. That's why the score was 89-89. They were physically exhausted through 6 3/4 games. The best game I've ever seen. The defining moment of LeBron James's career, the defining play, that block on Iguodala. Yeah, you bet I'm going to play that one.
Irving drives, hop step inside, floats it up, misses. Rebound taken by Iguodala. Iguodala to Curry, back to Iguodala, up for the layup. Oh, blocked by James. LeBron James with the rejection. Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness is right. Look, I am a better sports fan for having gotten to witness that block. I could not believe that. The sports science episode that came out afterwards just validates my feelings even more. But I could not believe that. My jaw dropped. I almost spilled my beer. That was one of the best basketball plays I've ever seen. And then we get the final call. The wait had been so long for Cleveland fans. So long. LeBron James, the chosen one, right? Gets them to the NBA Finals. They get swept in 4. He ditches town. The fans are burning his jersey. Dan Gilbert saying horrible things, calling him a Benedict Arnold. He goes on and wins in Miami. He's very successful. And then he comes back. He wants to deliver a title. He loses to the Warriors. He gets the rematch this year, and he does it.
Grabbed by Spades. Spades fires, and this one is over. Believe it, Cleveland. Savor it. Soak it in. The kid from Akron has come home. The Cavaliers are NBA champions, and the impossible dream has come true.
Best basketball game I've ever seen. What can I say? That was unbelievable. And like I said at the beginning of the podcast, I cannot wait for June when we have the rematch, round 3, the rubber match between the Warriors and the Cavs. We go to July, kind of a slow time in the sports scene. We get the All-Star break. That slows everything down. Not a whole lot going on in the NFL. Training camp hasn't quite started yet. No, I mean, it starts mid to late July. But what that also means is that we get the ESPYs. And if you listen to my last week's podcast, I talked about Craig Sager. He passed away recently. Very sad, very tragic. The world lost a really good sportscaster and by all accounts, an even better person. And I played a little clip. Well, I think it was like the whole clip. I think it was his entire speech from the ESPY Awards when he was receiving the Jimmy V Award. That is a top story for me in 2016. And I wanted to play at least just the last 30, 45 seconds of that. Craig Sager at the ESPYs, July 13th, 2016, as he's accepting the Jimmy V Award for Perseverance.
Whatever I might have imagined a terminal diagnosis would do to my spirit, it summoned quite the opposite. The greatest appreciation for life itself. So I will never give up, and I will never give in. I will continue to keep fighting, sucking the marrow out of life as life sucks the marrow out of me. I will live my life full of love and full of fun. It's the only way I know how. Thank you. And good night.
Yeah, anybody else's hair on their arms starting to stand up? Pretty powerful stuff. Craig Sager, one of many icons and celebrities that we all knew and loved, taken away from us in 2016. Wanted to be able to share just a little bit of that speech because it was very moving and very powerful stuff, as the Jimmy V speeches always are in July at the ESPYs. But Craig Sager, what can I say? We move along into August. We have Michael Phelps, Team USA, doing their thing in the Olympics. Not going to play any highlights there, but I do want to get into September. Jose Fernandez passes away, the absolute phenom out of the Miami Marlins. He probably could have played football. The Miami Marlins organization, just an absolute phenom, well loved by everybody there. His story is incredible. If you don't know anything about it, I would highly recommend doing a quick Google search and just figuring out his story. He was a Cuban who traveled by boat, made it to America. I mean, his mom fell off the boat and he had to jump in and saved her life. It was an incredible story. And Jose Fernandez, taken way too young, taken from us in a boating accident, and it really rocked not just the baseball community but the sports community. It was I remember getting that notification on my phone and just thinking, no way, are you kidding me? And I know I'm not the only one that felt that way, but the sound that I want to play from you is some D. Gordon, one of Fernandez's teammates on the Marlins, who in their first game back, he hit his first home run of the season. Jose Fernandez was D. Gordon's best friend. His best friend. He had not hit a home run all season long. And in his first at-bat, wearing number 16 with Fernandez across his back, trying to imitate his buddy's batting stance, he drops one into the right field bleachers. You need to watch the video. I don't have the highlight. I don't have the sound for that highlight because it just doesn't sound that great and it doesn't do it justice at all. You need to go and watch that. Take my advice. Please go and watch that if you haven't already. He maybe gets to second base before he breaks down. And by the time he gets back to home plate, the waterworks are streaming down his face. he points up to his friend in the sky, and he holds and hugs every single member of the Miami Marlins as he finally gets back into the dugout. It was incredibly powerful. I do have sound from him post-game, though, talking about that moment and about his best friend, Jose Fernandez.
So you go up to the plate the first time. What did you have Jose's helmet as well on the right side?
I had a helmet my size with his number on it, and I tried to impersonate his batting stance as close as possible. And I just hope he's happy, and I hope he's good, man, because, you know, we loved him so much.
D, you hit a home run. You hadn't hit a home run all year. You come up the left side. You hit a home run tonight. Justin Bour hits his first professional triple ever. Somebody helping you out tonight?
Man, I told the boys, if y'all don't believe in God, y'all might as well start. You know, I ain't never hit a ball that far, even in BP. And for that to happen today, and for JB to hit that triple, man, we had some help.
Absolutely crushed this ball. Upper deck, you come home and then hit, and you release. All your teammates are with you.
That was one of the best moments in my life. I don't have kids, so that's the best moment of my life, to hit a home run for him.
You end up winning the ball game, and then at the end of the game, you get around the mound, and it just, I don't know, I think Jose's proud of you guys. That's all I could say. I know it's the toughest, probably, game, one of the toughest days of your life. I'm sure that is.
Yeah, man, very tough, man, but it's only a fraction of how his family feel. We just take his extended family, and I just pray for them at this time.
Yeah, how about that? Again, please, if you have not seen the video of that home run, I couldn't recommend it enough. That was very moving stuff. Moving on into November, we get the second story. Really, I mean, it's 1A and 1B, right? Cavaliers beating the Warriors and the Cubs ending their title drought of 108 years. I'll tell you which one I think is better, but we got to listen into some Cubs sound, right? We have to. I mean, 108 years, and what a game that was. That game goes 7, or that series goes 7 games. The rain delay. Look, that was one of... Twitter is the worst thing in the world. It's also one of the best things in the world when there's just the absolute ridiculous stuff that you can find. It really, it's fascinating. Twitter, it can be the greatest thing ever, and it can be the absolute worst thing ever. You can see the funniest stuff. You can get really good insight and breaking news. And then you can get the lowest forms of human trash in the form of an egg and a troll. And it's really interesting how Twitter works and how attached to it we find ourselves here in the 21st century. But Twitter is especially fun when everybody on your timeline is saying the same thing. Everybody. Look, every single person that I know on my Twitter timeline, they were watching the Game 7, and when that tarp came out, there was not a single person going, "Oh, cool, rain delay." It was all caps, no, or ironic, funny stuff like, of course they got to delay this, and because the Cubs looked like they were going to win at the time, and just had to prolong the celebration, and I saw crying Jordans, and it was a really a hell of a time to be on Twitter, but you definitely got to have, there's no way you could talk about the sports stories in 2016 without the Chicago Cubs beating the Cleveland Indians and ending their 108-year title drought.
A little bouncer slowly toward Bryant. He will glove it and throw to Rizzo. It's in time, and the Chicago Cubs win the World Series. The Cubs come pouring out of the dugout, jumping up and down like a bunch of delirious 10-year-olds. The Cubs have done it.
It's just one of those things like I talked about with the LeBron James dunk, something that makes me a better sports fan for having seen it. That was one of those moments. Chris Bryant slipping as he's making the throw, probably thinking, don't throw it away, don't throw it away, don't throw it away. But he's smiling. He's laughing. He knows they did it. They just won the World Series. We wrap things up. I got to bring it back home. San Diego, in particularly, San Diego State. And there was a lot to choose from this year. They had another very successful season, at least for San Diego State terms. Winning the Las Vegas Bowl against Houston, not just beating Houston, blowing Houston out of the water. Overcoming an early 10-0 deficit, and then scoring off 34 unanswered points. But it was what happened in that game that's going to get the airtime here on the Reindl Report. Donnell Pumphrey passing Ron Dayne for the all-time NCAA rushing list.
Donnell trying to get outside and make a turn and made one guy miss, second guy miss, 35, 40, 45-yard line. He might have it right there on one carry. Donnell Pumphrey. He was on 17 carries for 97 yards on that particular run. He is the all-time rusher in the history of college football. How about that kid? From Las Vegas, Nevada, closes his career here and gets the chance to set the record here. What a marvelous story for a wonderful, wonderful kid.
Our own Teddy Leitner on the call there on the Mighty 1090. Hey, I've heard of those guys. No, seriously. Donnell Pumphrey at home, where he was born and raised in Vegas. So he played his high school ball, comes out to San Diego State, and gets to end his college career at home with his dad there. His parents were there, his daughter in the crowd. And he passes Ron Dayne for the all-time NCAA rushing list. And this is another one of those things in my last podcast where I talk about, look, did he really beat is he really number one? Is he not number one? Because then I can kind of, quickly explain that. The NCAA in, 2000, I think it was, they said, we're going to start counting bowl games for career stats. But we're not going to go back and retroactively add bowl games to the record books. So Ron Dayne, he had like 6,395, somewhere in there. He really had like 7,100 yards if you were to count his bowl games, because like Donnell Pumphrey, Ron Dayne played in a handful of bowl games as well. But those stats, for whatever reason, were not counted in the official record books of the NCAA. So instead of 7,125, he was more at like 6,400. And Donnell Pumphrey passed him, bowl games included, in the Las Vegas Bowl just a couple of weeks ago. And I said it last podcast, and I will say it again. Sorry, I'm not sorry, Ron Dayne. Sorry, I'm not sorry, Wisconsin fans. I don't really care. I'm going off what the NCAA says. If you want to think there's an asterisk next to it, so be it. I can't really blame you for feeling that it's bogus and that he shouldn't have the all-time record. I get it. And if the NCAA were to, in 10 years decides, hey, we're going to go back and retroactively add the bowl games, or they do something else and it changes Donnell Pumphrey's status at number one, then so be it. But that's the records that we got to go by. That's the list. And Donnell Pumphrey is number one, and that's our guy at San Diego State. The illusion that I made last week was, watching Kawhi Leonard do his thing in the NBA, shutting down LeBron James a couple years ago and winning himself an NBA title. Anytime I see that guy on TV doing his thing in the NBA, I just go, that was our guy. We got to see him here, just right up the street on the Mesa. And now Donnell Pumphrey is in that list. That's going to wrap it up for this edition of the Reindl Report, episode 35. Little year-long recap for 2016. I thought that was pretty fun. I wanted to get some sound for you guys so we kind of listen in together and kind of recap. And hopefully you agree with what I said towards the beginning of this podcast, how, look, 2016 sucked. It really did. But as far as sports go, pretty damn historical, especially between some of those championships. Villanova's buzzer beater 3 to win the NCAA tournament. Cavs beating the Warriors. We just heard the Cubs beating the Indians. Leicester City, 5,000 to 1 odds. Pretty remarkable 2016. Got to give my little spiel here that I could do at the end of every Reindl Report. Hey, this is a podcast. If you can go on iTunes, I would love for you to subscribe to the podcast. All you got to do, the app is already built into your phone, if you have an iPhone at least. The app's already built in. It's that little purple thing with a microphone. You click that. You can search for the Reindl Report. You hit subscribe. And right as I post these podcasts online, almost simultaneously, it'll get sent to your phone. I think sometimes you can even set it so you get a notification if you really want to. if you really got to know, you got to be absolutely up to speed on when a new podcast comes out, you can do that. And you'll get a little notification on your home screen. New episode available. I would love it if you would subscribe. I would love it if you would comment and share some thoughts. Good, bad, positive, negative, whatever. Leave me a comment. I'd love to hear from you. You can follow me on Twitter at @thepolarbearsd. And all these podcasts, interviews, everything else that I do, it is also archived on my blog. That is the ReindlReport.blogspot.com. I want to thank you guys for listening in. That was fun for me. 2016 is over. 2017, we are begging you to be better. Begging you. I mean, seriously. Carrie Fisher just died today. All these celebrities that have gone. I saw there's a GoFundMe to protect Betty White from 2016. And God bless the person that came up with that idea. Absolute kudos to them. 2016, you were the worst. If I was ever going to drop an F-bomb, it would be right here. It would be right here. Like, right at you, 2016. That's all I've got. Thanks for listening in. We will talk to you next year in 2017. Hope everyone is having a good holiday break. If you're on a break, if you're at work, power through. And I hope everyone has a very good start to their new year. We got college football playoffs on New Year's Eve. Alabama and Washington, Clemson, Ohio State. Who's going to move on to the national title game? I know, but we'll wait and see what happens on Saturday. We got a lot to talk about with the Chargers and relocation, what's going to be happening. We'll have a Chargers season recap here probably next week, maybe the week after that. Don't even know who it's going to be with, but it'll be with somebody. I promise you that. Lot coming up on the Reindl Report, lot coming up in sports. Thanks for tuning in. I will talk to you guys next week.